If you watch the previous video on checking ExpressRoute bandwidth using virtual network flow logs, then you'll probably recognize this diagram that I'm showing on the screen. In the previous video, we looked at the ability to capture data in and out of these VNets with VNet flow logs based on the Azure SDN in the region. I did mention in passing the other options you have, like centralized firewall login and ExpressRoute traffic collector. And in that video, I mentioned that ExpressRoute traffic collector was usable on ExpressRoute Direct based ExpressRoute circuits only. Well, some eagle-eyed viewers spotted this FAQ item here around, does ExpressRoute traffic collector support provider ports? It talks about mailing a Microsoft email address. Well, that was because we were in a transition state of this becoming a supported service on all ExpressRoute circuits, including partner circuits, of which there are many more than direct ports. So now we have the ability for ExpressRoute traffic collector to be used on all partner ports. So I thought I'd do a quick demo, show you how it works, show you how you get the logs out and some of the queries that you can run. So just to baseline our understanding here of what it is again, we are taking our ExpressRoute circuit and I'm saying, give me the flow data from that circuit on a sampled basis. So that's one in roughly every 4,000 packets. I'll sample the data and ingest that into a Microsoft managed service called a traffic collector, which sits in a region that you specify. This region has to be in the same geopolitical area as your circuit. And then from there, once the data is in the collector, we'll send it to Log Analytics, and then you can perform your queries against it. So I've built this very simple topology. I've got an ExpressRoute circuit connected into the same environment we saw before, hub-spoke environment with some VMs. And I've got an on-premises virtual machine here, and I'm sending data from here to here and back again, doing different types of data, pings, NTTT CP throughput testing, and some web browsing as well. I won't belabor the setup, but I've been through this guide here. So I've deployed the traffic collector on my partner circuit and enabled it and waited the 10 or 15 minutes for this to come online. So I'll show you that now. First thing is, here's my ExpressRoute circuit. You can notice that it's a regular circuit with Megaport providing it in this scenario. It's a 1 gig circuit. I can now go to my ExpressRoute traffic collectors, of which I have one here deployed in West Europe. And we see here it's a relatively simplistic dashboard. You have here log destinations, that's going to Log Analytics. We have some metrics from the collector itself, from the managed service under the hood, as it were. And you can see here there's a spike in flow login, which is when I was doing my testing earlier. Apart from that, there's not really much happening in the portal. The magic happens when you run your Log Analytics custom queries. So we have here my circuit. This is my partner circuit I've enabled. Some of the metrics you can look at, the things that we just saw on the overview page. So to take this demo further, we now have to jump to Log Analytics and perform some queries. Now, the queries that we are going to run can be found here in the Azure documentation. So this here is the Log Analytics table schema that we'll be using, the high-level name, ATC ExpressRoute Circuit IPFX. And down here are some of the things that we can filter on. We'll get into that now, but this is the page which you'll sort of need to use to start building your queries. If I just want to get every single record that the traffic collector has inside of its Log Analytics table, I can just run the base command here, and you see that there's about 85 records. And bear in mind, I've been sending quite a lot of data. I've been sending an entire throughput test, which would have sent tens of thousands of packets, running ping for minutes. You can see here that number of records is reflective of what we said earlier, which is that this is a sampled service. So different to VNet flow logs, where it's a one-to-one mapping of everything coming through the SDN and the NICs is one-to-one. This is very much a different kind of service. This is more about giving you a feel for the low resolution usage of your ExpressRoute. And the nature of that becomes apparent when we start to run some queries. So let's run through a few examples of where we can start getting a bit more granular with the data. So an interesting observation here is that because this service is pulling data from the edge network, it's pulling data from where the ExpressRoute circuit is deployed on top of those enterprise edge routers, we are not beholden to the same constraints that we have inside of the region virtual networks. And one of the benefits of that for looking at data is we can start to pull out ICMP data. So I've got a filter here which is saying when the protocol, this is the protocol type, is not 6, which is TCP, give me the records. You see when I run that query, it's only giving me back one result. And when we look at this type of traffic, it's ICMP traffic. You see that by protocol. Protocol version 1 is ICMP. But like I said, I had a running ping going where I sent thousands of packets, and I was lucky that one of them got sampled. So again, it's not the exact service you want to be using for picking the needle out of a haystack, but it does show me that I had ICMP traffic on my ExpressRoute circuit between these IPs. You see 217.132 and 10.4. If we go back to our diagram, these are the IPs of my source and destination VMs on-prem and Azure. Now we can look at a different query, and this is probably one which you will use most if you're using this service, is to check and verify that a particular set of IPs are using the ExpressRoute circuit. So here I've just said, give me all the data where the source subnet is my on-prem subnet, and you see it's pulling out every flow which is initiated from on-prem. And you can see here actually in the query output, you can see all of the different fields you get. So source port, destination port. These are randomized because this is the NTTT throughput testing. TCP is a protocol type. How much throughput in terms of bytes. So if you were looking to aggregate and work out flow throughput, that would be the bit of interest there. Number of packets, class of service if you're working with any sort of DOS fields. You even get the BGP level information in there, which that will look very similar because these are the ASNs of the Azure Edge and the Azure VNGs. And then we have some more information here, which is a bit more esoteric. Maybe you will have use for it. Again, peering type, if you're using Microsoft peering to go to services like any public IP in Azure, the use of Microsoft peering is reducing these days. But if you do have that, this is giving you the ability because the data's here. If this circuit is used for private peering, and if this over here, the same circuit on a different VLAN was being used to get to Microsoft peering, you could pull that data out with Traffic Collector. Anyway, I want to keep this video short. This was just a brief technical demo just to highlight that Traffic Collector is now applicable to many, many more customers if you're using the ExpressRoute partner model. Probably a common question that we'll get is, when should I use Traffic Collector for my ExpressRoute versus VNet flow logs? And I'll address that in a future video. We'll look at some pros and cons and differences of each service, but I will catch you in that video. Thanks for watching.